10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. That's right, this is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, here with you at the No Soundbites Allowed podcast, and we have a bit of a ring here. Hopefully that's not too much for everyone else. But we're happy to be here with you. I always appreciate and thank you all for being here. You guys make it all worthwhile. I thank you. I thank each and every one of you for being here, because you people are great. You're my fans, and that's why I'm here week after week doing this, speaking with you on some of the issues that are affecting us all, whether it's here in the nation or in the state or the local level. It's all the same, because eventually it affects us all. What affects one affects everyone. And so that's why I'm here. And I know it's the Christmas season, and I hope everyone's going to be well. I know it's a great time. It's usually very festive for everyone, and I hope everyone's will have food, warmth, great friends and family around them. And that's my true hope for everyone, no matter what. In fact, along that theme, there is a wonderful thing that we're getting in New York State as the demonstration of what we can expect for 2020. We're getting a bunch of gifts from our politicians. We are the lucky ones. That's right. Because of the 2018 elections in New York State, we finally have the state assembly, which I think for about 6 decades now has consistently been under control, actually more, has been under the control of the state assembly, which has been, the state assembly has been under control of the Democrats. And which is not unusual. New York State is a blue, super blue state, so you would expect that. The state Senate, which works with the assembly to create the laws for this state, the state Senate, though, has been recently under the Republicans. And so the two houses would compromise to pass bills, usually with great pressure being put on Republicans to pass the bills that the Democrats want. For the most part. Not always the case, and obviously there are compromises. And our governor has pretty much consistently been a Democrat as well, and in this case is the re-elected Governor Andrew Cuomo in his 3rd term, amazingly, where he is continuing to be governor of the state, and he is very much a Democrat who is looking to run for the presidency in 2020. So in 2019, everything that is going to be done is run in New York State by Democrats. They have total control. This is basically a supermajority. And it is an example. New York State is an example state to show the rest of the nation how well Democrats can do if they are to have a supermajority and were to run everything and to get everything that they wanted passed. That's what they're looking at. And this is able to promote not only the individual candidates like either Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who is running for, also looking to get the presidential nomination or the vice presidential nomination, which is my thought. I think she's looking to be vice president. But we also have our presidents coming out of this. Governor Cuomo is one of the candidates and will be pushing forward a lot of the agenda that the Democratic National Committee believes in and is looking forward to. Basically, what Tom Perez has mentioned is the move to the left to become socialist Democrats, kind of like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, basically like Bernie Sanders. Socialists, that's where they want to go and take the party, and New York is the example of this is how well it can be done. So they have a gift for us. They've already told us what they're planning to do. And what they're planning to do, essentially, is a bunch of new changes, new things that happened after the election, so no one can stop this. You can't vote someone out and stop them from having this happen. But because they're no longer blocked by the potential of an election for a couple of years, they're putting out all the stops, and they're just going right for it and saying, this is the wonderful thing we've been looking for. all Democrats, all in control, and we can do anything we want, and here's what we're going to give you. And so that's going to be our discussion here for this episode, and I hope everyone's going to enjoy it. Please do let us know if you do enjoy it. Do leave your comments and tell everyone what you think. But we're going to start off with something that I've been speaking with a lot recently. And this is in reference to, it's in reference to Bill S09191. Now, a lot of people may not be familiar with that, but in case you want to look it up, that's what you would look for. And that is the social media password bill. I usually call it the password bill, by State Senator Kevin S. Parker out of Brooklyn. And his bill says that to make the public safer, he claims, he wants to pass a bill that he submitted without any fanfare, without telling anyone, in the middle of the night. He put in a bill and said, hey, for anyone, if you want a firearm, in particular a handgun, in New York State, then you have to give the state government of New York, you have to give them your password to all of your social media accounts for the last 3 years. And you have to give them your Google searches for the last year, so that some official of the government can go back and look it over and approve it if they like what you said. And this will make people safer. So there will be less gun violence in New York State because the government can go in and check out what you've had to say. That's what he alleges, that's what he claims, and that's what he's been speaking about. I've been writing a lot about it. I've had many podcasts about it. I do suggest check out some of the other podcasts I've done, and you'll be able to see that for yourself. But here's what happened. It's been such a controversial issue, such a dividing issue. I know State Senator Fred Akshar in the 52nd District, which I happen to be in, he put out a survey, and I know that over 5,000 people have responded already in just about 3-4 days of it, and about 80% of the people are opposed to it, but there is 20% who do support Kevin Parker. And so that's the kind of division we're seeing across the state, which motivated the national news media to pick up on this story because it's gained so much interest. And we saw that on Fox News 2 nights ago, on December 5th, State Senator Kevin Parker appeared on the Tucker Carlson program, and he spoke about it. And I'm going to share a little bit of that with you and some of my comments about it. Now, I won't be able to hear it, so I'll just be speaking to you after the fact, but let's listen in to what State Senator Kevin Parker had to say to Tucker Carlson about the social media password bill.
To find out, we've invited Kevin Parker on the show tonight. He's the New York State Senator from Brooklyn. You just saw on that tape. Senator Parker, welcome. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me on, Tucker.
So I should just say at the outset what I'm sure our viewers already know, which is it's already against federal law to sell firearms to the mentally ill, thank heaven. And I think all of us support that restriction. So it's already against the law. But what other constitutional rights that we as Americans possess should be contingent on how we behave on social media?
Well, let's be clear. I take an oath that supports the amendments and the whole Constitution, both the U.S. and the state government Constitution. And so this is really not about impinging on constitutional rights. This is really about...
So one of the first things I want to say here, and that's just about 43 seconds into the conversation, and already there's an issue. One of the most fundamental things that we have to understand. When Tucker Carlson is talking about the Constitution, whether or not this is a constitutional bill, whether or not anyone's constitutional rights, and remember, a constitutional right is an inherent right by birth, by the fact that you are alive, and especially because you're in the United States, but a human being has these rights guaranteed. It cannot be taken by any government. It cannot be legislated to you. They are inherent. Everyone has them. And so Tucker Carlson is saying, can the government do this? And, immediately we see State Senator Kevin Parker try and distract from that. And he's saying, no, this is about safety. No, it's not. It is not. He's wrong. In fact, he may even be lying, because this is, by definition, a law that says that the government is usurping the privacy, the right to privacy of an individual who wants to exercise or use their right to the Second Amendment, to be able to bear an arm, to have a handgun or a firearm. So that, by definition, is saying, one, the government's going to take away your Fourth Amendment right and mandate. It's not an option. It's a mandate. For me to exercise my Second Amendment right, I must break my Fourth Amendment right, give the government power to look at everything I've said and everyone who has said something to me, whether a private email, a private message, a tweet, whatever it may be, to read all of my information and then make a determination, a decision on whether or not they like that information. Because that's what the bill actually says. The bill says that based on whomever is making the decision, whoever gets access, they get to make a decision based on how they feel about your information, your words, which violates your First Amendment right to free speech. Then they get to decide whether or not you get to exercise your Second Amendment right. These are all your fundamental rights. So, State Senator Kevin Parker is wrong right off the bat that he's not telling people the truth. This isn't about safety. This is about the government having control over you, over your privacy, over your speech, and over your right to defend yourself. That's a fact. This is a bill that if a woman, as an example, if a woman wants to defend herself, she's maybe domestic abuse, maybe it's because of rape or her fear of being raped, and she's going out there and she decides that she wants to get a firearm and get training for that to be able to better defend herself. And what Senator Kevin Parker is saying, no, you can't do that until you give us the right to look at all of your social media and passwords and searches to find out whether or not you said anything that we don't like. Which could be, you could say that, I don't like Governor Cuomo, I didn't vote for him. And you'd said that in a private email conversation with your mom or your best friend. And that woman, because she may have said that, someone can abuse this and say, well, I don't want to give someone who doesn't believe in the democratic socialist policies of New York State a firearm. They're a dangerous person. They must be clinging to their God and their guns, like Governor Cuomo has mentioned in 2014. Therefore, they're too dangerous to have a firearm, even if she's trying to protect herself from rape or domestic abuse, and deny her ability to use her Second Amendment right. That's the scenario that he's talking about. That is constitutional rights. Kevin Parker, that doesn't make people safer. Oh, and by the way, just as another add-on, he forgot to mention, State Senator Kevin Parker forgot to mention that this bill violates New York Penal Code 135.60. Go ahead and look it up. That is the coercion in the second degree. That's right. New York State, under Kevin Parker, would be violating its own state law, coercion, if this bill is passed, as it is expected to be passed in the second or third week of January of 2019. But what else does State Senator Kevin Parker has to say about this? Well, let's check it out.
Safety. This is really about how do we, in fact, make the state of New York as safe as possible. Now,
Right.
We've already been very safe. We're one of the top 3 safest states in the entire country, particularly when you look at mass shootings, thank God. But we can always be safer, and we can always make sure that what happened in Pittsburgh, what we saw in Parkland, what we saw in Orlando doesn't happen here.
All right. And so now this is where we see, this is where we see State Senator Kevin Parker playing a game, because now he's making an emotional appeal. Well, New York State is safe. We've always been safe. And we're safe against mass shootings. Well, we've always been safe against mass shootings, as much as any other state and anywhere else. There is no one state where everyone goes to commit a mass shooting. It doesn't work that way. There is no one place where everyone goes to have a mass shooting. Well, except for gun-free zones. So if you're in a gun-free zone, yeah, that's a target because no one's supposed to have a gun, and these fanatics are able to do more damage there. But other than that, we've seen them all over the place. They've been in Ohio, they've been in Florida, New York State, California, everywhere in the country. And in Texas, it's been attempted in Texas, so in Pennsylvania. So there is no one state that is a magnet for mass shootings, and there is no state that is safe from mass shootings or mass murder events. It's not possible. If anyone can drive a car, people have built bombs. We've seen that in Columbine. We've seen that in California a couple of times. We saw that in Florida. There is nothing that will make people safer. And to say that New York State is safe because of some laws that we have passed, in particular the New York SAFE Act, that's a lie. And in fact, if you look at the actual numbers from New York State itself, there's a report, G.I.V.E. report. It is a report of the metropolitan 17 major cities in New York State. And you look at the numbers, and essentially, there has been no change before or after the fact. So, oops, sorry about that. So, there is no change that we've seen because people are still doing the same things they were doing before. The crazy and deranged people are still crazy and deranged. The people who are criminals still don't follow the law. There is no difference. So he is using this emotional plea, this ploy, to try and make people feel something is happening, even though nothing has happened. There is no factual difference, but he's making it sound like that. And so that's something that needs to be noted. But what else does he say?
And so this law simply says, let's look at what people are putting out on social media as a part of a set of criteria that we're using to determine who gets handguns. Because
hold on, and by the way, I agree with your desire to make your state and every state as safe as we possibly can. But why restrict it to gun owners? I mean, you are an elected official, you're a state senator, you wield a lot of power, you control people's lives. Why shouldn't I have the password to your social media accounts so we can assess whether you should be wielding the power that you do?
Well, somebody should put that law in, and maybe we can do that. First of all,
but it's a sincere question. Media, would you send me your passwords?
Tucker, my social media is open right now. You can go on it and look at it. Anybody can look at it. It's public information, so people can look at my social media.
But hold on, why don't you send me your passwords and I'll find out how open it really is? You're requiring gun owners to give you their passwords. Why shouldn't they turn around and ask you for the same? That's a sincere question.
Look, what we should be talking about is how do we make the state of New York safe? And I'm simply saying right now we're not as safe as we can be because people are saying things on social media and we're not using that and looking at that as we in fact give out a weapon that is used to kill people.
Okay,
period.
but I get what you're saying. I guess I'm just wondering why we're restricting it. I mean, as long as, and you've said that privacy is not a concern, and if you have concerns about privacy, don't carry a gun, don't buy a gun. Okay, but you're saying that that's the only category to which this applies. Why don't we apply it to voting?
Again,
before you vote and choose who runs the state, who controls your life, why shouldn't you have your social media checked? I'm not sure I understand.
Because voting doesn't necessarily lead to people killing each other. This is really about access to guns. No, this is about access to guns, and we know that there's a direct correlation with the number of guns that are available in states and the prevalence of mass.
All right, folks. So, and I'm not going to do the whole interview that he had with Tucker Carlson, but there's two things in that last part that I want to address. He says, one, my information, State Senator Parker says that his information is already public. Well, guess what? So is everyone's on social media. So why is it that the state, the government, needs to have access to even more information than just being able to look up someone's Facebook page or their Twitter accounts and see what anyone can see right now. And later in the conversation, he does say things like, well, the police department is already deciding whether or not people can get a firearm. Okay. And that means that they are already looking at social media as well as anything else that they may be doing, then make that decision of whether someone gets a firearm or not. Why does the government need to invade your privacy to be able to see what you're saying, what people are talking to you about, your private life, all of the little details that you don't want to be public, and they're making it public? So he says that, and I think that's kind of important there. That's a big deal that he's talking about that, and he brushes it across. No, that's not important because I'm a state official. Well, that doesn't make you a good person or a smart person or a better person. I've known, in 12 years of political commentary, I've known dozens of elected officials in several counties, and some of them are dumb as a box of rocks, and some of them are brilliant. Some of them are great people, but the election doesn't make them a better person. It doesn't make them a smarter person. It doesn't make them a more effective person. That's not how it works. That's not human nature. Just because you're elected doesn't make you better or make you smarter. All it does is make it different. And so State Senator Parker's wrong about that. And he then goes on to mention about the gun ownership. And that he mentions there's a correlation between owning guns and somehow gun violence, which is a lie. There is no proof of that. That does not exist. It's just not true. But again, he's using fear, and he's using a lack of facts, and he's using the idea that if you say no, well, you must be evil. You have to be evil if you're disagreeing with State Senator Kevin Parker, because everyone wants to be safe, right? And we all want to be safer. Well, yes, that's true. But what is the cost of that safety? Are we actually becoming safer, or do we have an illusion of safety? And in fact, what we're seeing is that we're becoming less safe. We're less protected against the government that's abusing its rights and destroying our rights and our freedoms and our power to make a change. That's the question that we need to ask. But this is a gift for 2019 that New York State is trying to give. And I guarantee you, this is an example. If it passes here in New York State, you're going to see that in California and then across the rest of the nation. This is what Democrats are going to be running on in 2020. This is their answer. We'll make you safe. You just have to give up your rights. You just have to give up your freedoms. You just have to make the government more powerful and make yourself less powerful. And don't worry, it'll be okay because we're Democrats. Now, with that said, I've gone a little bit long. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the other gifts that we see that are coming in 2019 that you can expect to have to live with. And please tell me if you think it's a lump of coal or if it's a great gift. We'll be back in a moment. Everybody. That was Superstition by the Gypsies. I hope everyone enjoyed that. And not quite Christmas music, but you know, still a great conversation, a great song, and I enjoyed it. And my friend Matt Cornwell is in fact the lead singer there, no relation to the DA, who is Steve Cornwell out of Broome County. Now, I want to first, again, I want to thank everybody for being here at the No Soundbites Allowed podcast. You guys are great. You make the difference. You're the reason why I do everything. That's why I'm involved with all of this and why I do this, because you guys are great, and I thank you for that. And that's why I come back week after week. And even talking about this, I know no one's really into paying attention to politics after the election, but if we're noticing a lot of things are happening because the election's over and politicians are expecting you not to pay attention, that's one of the most important times. And that's why we saw this bill was put in by State Senator Kevin Parker. And you can look at the entire, look up online the YouTube videos and see everything that he said, I think it's quite troubling, especially when you start actually listening to what he said versus what was asked of him. And when we start considering the things that are involved. And I would suggest you may want to look up the Voss Political Commentary and see what we've said about this. And by the way, don't forget, this is all handled by your donations, by your support of us, looking at the videos, liking it, spreading it to other people, any donations that you send in. That helps us to get this information out. So we look forward to that, and we hope that you can help as well. But we want to move on to the next thing that we wanted to talk about here. And one of the things that we wanted to speak about is the other gifts that we're getting from the state legislature. And again, these are all things that you're going to see. It's happening here in New York as the example for the rest of the nation, that when Democrats have a supermajority, this is what you can expect. This is what their move to become a socialist government is. These are the things that they're going to be providing to you. And that's what's very important about this. So we already know that they're going to give you the gift of feeling like you're free and that you're safe, but you're going to give up your First, your Second, and your Fourth Amendment rights to be able to get that gift, which says nothing about the red flag legislation, which will take away your Fifth Amendment rights, your due process, that also will be given up so that you can feel like you're safe, even though it does absolutely nothing to stop any criminal or anyone who is deranged from using a car, a bomb, or a firearm to be able to do mass murders as well as individual murders. It makes no one safer on any of these things, but it does take away your rights, and you do get to feel better. So isn't that a wonderful trade-off? Don't you feel better about that? But I also wanted to go into what else they're doing. And this is something you would see that would happen across the nation. And that is that the New York State Legislature has decided, and this happened today on December 7th, it's come out that they decided to give themselves a raise, that they're going to give themselves an extra $50,000 per year. And in fact, that's just the start. They're actually going to give themselves even more of a raise. So they're going to go from $79,000 a year for the state legislature to $110,000 as of January 1st. Just in time to pay all of those Democrats who won in the state Senate, to pay all of the Democrats to be able to have a supermajority. They now decide, hey, now is the time that we give everybody a raise because it's only Democrats. When the Republicans were there, no, we've held off for several years. We didn't deserve that increase. We didn't deserve it. But now that we have a supermajority in New York State, well, all of the politicians deserve to get a raise. Isn't that great? And by the way, that raise, this is something that's going to surprise a lot of people here. Oops, wrong one. This cost $10.6 million. That's right. The raise is going to be $10.6 million. So that's a little too expensive for words. And to give you an idea of what this really works out to, here's what this gift, this is your taxes. You're going to pay an extra $10.6 million in taxes to be able to provide 212 legislators, all of them Democrats, and the governor is also getting a pay raise. So 213 people, about $11 million is going to be spent in taxes to be able to give them a raise. And this is what you have. This is, for New York State, the per capita. This is what you get to make in New York State. Now, if you happen to be in Manhattan, which is New York County, then the average person is making $111,000. Mind you, that is based on 1.5 million people. There are a lot of people who make way less. There are also people who make a lot of money. So that raises it up. That's where Wall Street is. That's where the headquarters of many national and international companies are. So you're seeing a lot of CEO salaries in there, as well as a lot of people who are on poverty. And the mix comes out to $111,000 a year. Westchester, where a lot of people go to They actually have their houses and they commute from Manhattan to Westchester, 73,000. The rest of the state, if you notice, it immediately starts dropping down. 41,000, 38,000, 35. It gets a lot worse. Matter of fact, if you were to look at this in alphabetical order, all of a sudden you notice Albany, the capital of New York State, gets about $30,863, the average person there. That's not a whole lot of money. That's not very much. And in fact, if you're in Allegheny, you get $20,000 for the average person. In the Bronx in New York City, the average person makes $17,575. In Broome County, where I am, $24,314. Okay? I want to put that out there because these are important numbers. And you can look this up for yourself. It's based on census data. But what this means is that the average New York State legislator will be making, as of January 1st, 2019, 3.55 or 3.6 times more money than the average person in New York State to have a part-time job. A part-time job. To be, if you are in the state assembly or you are in the state senate, you have a part-time job. They have other jobs besides just that. So they're making money at their quote-unquote regular job, as well as being a part of the state assembly. So this is extra money they get to make. Many of them are attorneys or other jobs, and they get to do those other jobs and be in the state government. So they're making two incomes, potentially. Not all of them do, but potentially they can. And this is their part-time job, to be part of the government. And they get to be paid almost 4 times as much, and in fact 4 times more than the national average. In the nation, the average person in the United States makes $27,334. They're going to be paid 4 times as much as of January 1st, and then it gets higher. They get to even make more than that going forward. They will be making 5 times as much as the average person in America, and almost 5 times as much as everyone in New York State. Can you imagine that? For a part-time job. That's just amazing to me. I mean, to me is just incredible. It just blows my mind away. And I just don't know what to think about it. It's just like, wow, you're going to do a part-time job, and for that part-time job, you're going to get paid 4 times as much as the people you represent. Because, you got elected and you're a Democrat. That is really, really insulting. Okay, that's just absolutely insulting. And that's the average. Like we saw, as I showed you, if you're looking at Bronx and other parts of Allegheny, other counties throughout the state, you're making even less. Some people aren't even making the average for New York's, the national income. And they're making even more. They're 5 or 6 times as much as the average person they get to represent. And these people who are making that much more in their part-time jobs have decided that one of the best things they can do is to take away your right to privacy and give it to the government. Wow. That's kind of special. That's a unique and kind of special kind of thing. They're going to increase your taxes so that they can have more money in their part-time job, and somehow that means you're going to be better off, and they're going to take away your freedom to be able to have privacy, to be able to speak, to be able to have due process when you're talking about the red flag legislation. They want to take that all away from you, and this way you can feel like you're safer. Not that you will be safer, but that you can feel like you are safer. And They get more money for that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It just boggles my mind that this is the logic that's going there. And mind you, in the New York Times article, and I want to be very fair here, in the New York Times article, they do say in that article, which I put up there, which is with a $50,000 raise, New York lawmakers would become the highest paid in the nation. For those who are listening to this on the audio-only version of the podcast, what you're listening to, what they're saying is, well, we want to give the politicians more money, not because they're Democrats, not because we have a supermajority starting in 2019, and want to give our party more money to be able to stay in power. No. The reason why they're doing that is this will lower corruption. Really? Are you kidding? New York State leads, I believe at the moment, is leading the nation in corruption. Just about everybody who surrounds Governor Cuomo is corrupt. Although, we have to be fair, Governor Cuomo has never been connected to corruption directly. He also has no email for anyone to ever see. He doesn't use email, as far as we can tell, and he doesn't use Twitter, he doesn't use social media. He does everything handwritten letters, as far as we can tell, and phone conversations that are not recorded. So there is no documentation. So as far as we know, in any documents that can be found, which don't exist, that Governor Cuomo is innocent, quote unquote. But the understanding is, and before this election, where he got reelected, in a landslide, he got reelected. 54% of the state believes he's corrupt. And we're looking at giving him a pay raise because 54% of the people in New York State who voted for him think he's corrupt. So he should get more money. Because this will stop other people from being corrupt somehow. Billions upon billions of dollars of corruption. I would suggest the drone testing site in Utica, the drone testing site at Griffith International Airport. That I believe is about as corrupt as anything else, the Buffalo Billions that we've seen throughout the state, where we have 11 full-time jobs. We're paying $23 million in taxes to each job that has been created. It has done nothing for the state. It has failed to hit any promise made by any of the politicians involved, including Anthony Brindisi. But yet, we're somehow going to see this move forward. And they're going to get more money, and somehow this is going to protect us. That somehow these people who are spending stupid amounts of money are somehow going to be less corrupt now because they get a little bit of extra money in their part-time job as they take away all of our rights. This is your gift in 2019 from the New York State Legislature. This is what they're going to give it for you and how they're going to treat you. Don't you feel warm in your heart that our very corrupt, or what people believe to be our very corrupt governor, is now going to give up all of the corruption because he's going to get more money out of your pocket in your taxes. So he's going to give up the billions in potential corruption that is out there because he got an extra $50,000. And you get to have higher taxes and less rights, less freedom. You get less freedom and less money. He gets a little bit more money, and now he's not going to be corrupt anymore. That's what they want you to believe. I have a great deal of trouble believing that. And that is not exactly what I would call the gift to New York State that New York State needs. I just don't. And it sounds more like why there's 1.2, maybe 1.5 million people who have left the state and said, we don't want to be part of that anymore. We don't want the corruption of New York State. We don't want to be taxed higher than pretty much every other state in the nation. We don't want to be in a state where businesses can't continue to operate and are leaving in droves because it's just ridiculous. But this is the gift that we're going to get from the New York State Legislature in 2019. Don't you feel better? Well, to help you feel a little bit better about it, I'm going to go over and we'll go into another musical break, and then we'll be right back with our final part of this podcast with you. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here with us, still being here with us here at the No Soundbites Allowed podcast. I hope you enjoyed the musical break. And I just want to say, first and foremost, that I appreciate each and every one of you. I thank you for being here. This is our third year. We're still going strong. And you know, really, I appreciate the fact that you come in week after week to join me here to talk about the issues that affect us all. And especially as we're in the holiday season right now, I know politics isn't the first thing that are on many people's minds, but it is important that we have to keep these politicians honest, and we have to keep them aware that we know what's going on, and not just the 30 seconds that we get to hear from some news organization that says, oh, well, you don't really need to talk about this. Or we're going to tell you, here's the headline, and that's supposed to be everything. That's all you're supposed to know about is that headline that they went in and told you about, even though there's a lot more going on. And we need to look at this in context, because these are the gifts that we're going to get in 2019. The gifts from New York State's government to you. They're going to take away your, very possible, they're going to take away the Fourth Amendment from you and take away that privacy that you want to have, whether or not, by the way, you have a firearm. Because think about it. 1 in 4 people in New York State own a firearm. one of those individuals may be getting their license renewed or going to get a new firearm, and now they have to, if this passes as is expected in the second week of January, maybe the third, and it's part of the gun restriction policy in New York State, then your information that you spoke to one of those people that you didn't even know had a firearm, and now your information, your emails, your tweets, your private messages with that individual is now in the hands of the government to do whatever they want with it. That's kind of scary. That's kind of terrifying. And you're going to pay more in taxes for this because you got to pay those state legislators to make these wonderful bills that will take away your Fourth Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights, your First Amendment rights, your right to due process. They're going to get rid of all of that, and you're going to pay them more money to do it. Don't you feel great? Isn't that like having 2 big lumps of coal in your stockings for Christmas? And I know a lot of people don't know what that is, but it's just an old tradition. Now, one of the other things I wanted to talk about finally here in this final portion is the third and most wonderful part of what we're going to be getting. This came out yesterday, December 6th, and it was an announcement that a city council here in Albany backs the Medicare for All. And that just should tell you everything you need to know about what's coming up in 2019. With all Democrats running every level of state government, they're going to get a raise. They're trying to push through gun control legislation that can take away all of your other rights besides the Second Amendment, whether or not you're involved with a firearm at all. But as a bonus, everyone's going to get the same kind of medical treatment. Everyone gets the same medical plan. Medicare goes away. They're going to get rid of Medicare. They're going to get rid of all the different health programs. You won't have anything else to pay except tripling your taxes. That's right. They're going to triple your taxes so that you can get the exact same kind of coverage as everyone else. So if you have better coverage, you will lose it. If you have no coverage, you're automatically covered. Everyone gets it, including every single illegal alien in New York State. Everyone gets coverage. All you have to do is cross the border of New York. If you walk in from Pennsylvania, you can go straight to a hospital in New York State and you will get covered and get the same coverage as everyone else in New York State. And then as soon as you're better, walk back over across the border of Pennsylvania and you're okay. And everyone in New York will pay 3 times as much in taxes for it. Think about it. This is one of the reasons why people are leaving the state. One of the leading reasons. I know Governor Cuomo has already said that it's because, New York is cold. By the way, as long as I have been alive, for 5 decades in my lifetime, New York has been cold. As far as I know, for the history of the United States, New York has been cold. As far as I am aware, for the history of mankind, New York has been cold. That has never changed. And yet 19 million people live here. Used to be more, but 19 million people live here, and I think they all know that New York State is cold. So people aren't leaving New York State because it's cold. No, that's not the primary reason. It may be because people can't get jobs. It may be because we're seeing the New York State legislature is going to be paid 4 times as much as the average person in America. That they're going to be making 3.5 times what the average person in New York State gets to make. To be able to pass bad bills, bad legislation that hurts people. Maybe that's why people are leaving New York State. And let's think about it, if these 3 things happen, and in fact, it's only 2 things because one has already happened. In 2019, January 1st, we know the state legislature, 213 individuals, will get more money from your taxes, from your pocket, That is guaranteed. That has already happened. That is done. So that's already happened. That's your first lump of coal from New York State to you for Christmas. Second thing, well, we have 2 bills. We have actually 3 or 4. You have the gun control issues, which are the red flag legislation, which I have spoken about at length. Please check it out, and you'll be able to see some of the things I've written about and some of the things I've talked about. But check that out. There's the red flag legislation, which will take away your due process as well as your Second Amendment rights. And you've got the password legislation, where the government's going to take away your privacy and they're going to judge you based on your First Amendment right and try and take away what you get to say privately to each other. Those are wonderful things. Isn't that a reason to come to New York State? So that the government can go into your emails, to go into your YouTube, your Facebook, into your chat, to search what you're searching, to find out, did you look up porn? Did you look up something that you shouldn't have been looking up? Was there something that you were looking up that anyone in the government might not like and want to hold against you? That's a good reason. Come to New York and give us your privacy. I can hear how that message is going to sell so well. And then you get to say, hey, and you're going to pay us extra to do it. And by the way, we're going to take away all your Medicare, gone. Your good health care, gone. Everyone gets the same health care, crappy health care, overworking all of the doctors and the entire medical system. And don't worry, it's just because you get to have less, it's okay, because that illegal alien who broke the law to be in the nation is going to get more because they're here too. All from your taxes, which are going up. Isn't that great? Because we're going to get rid of the tax cuts because you get too much money. So they're going to take away that money and give it to someone else, in particular, illegal aliens. This is what New York State is doing for you. These are your lumps of coal for Christmas. Don't you feel better? This is how you get to start 2019. And this is the message to the nation for 2020. This is what you'll get if you go all Democrat across the board in every part of the government. You got a president that's a Democrat, a Congress that's a Democrat. Guess what? You're going to get higher taxes. Illegal aliens are going to get rewards for breaking the law. You get to pay for it all, and you have less freedom for it. Yay. Don't we all feel great? Oh, I can hear the reaction right now. You know, it's going to be those, oh, that's right, applause. I can hear it now. Or at least that's what they think is going to happen. Because I really don't think that's going to be the reaction. I really don't think anyone's going to be happy about that. I think that you're going to see more people leave New York State in 2019 and 2020 than we have ever seen before. We are already the highest exodus state. There are more people leaving New York State than any other state in the nation. We are number one. That's the only thing that New York is pretty much number one at right now. Besides the taxes, besides business unfriendliness, no one wants to make a business in New York, no one wants to keep a business in New York, and no one wants to live in New York. And they're making it worse. Unless you happen to be an illegal alien. I guarantee you, if they did a poll of that, we would probably be neck and neck with California and Texas for illegal aliens. And actually, I think we're doing better than Texas in welcoming illegal aliens, people who've broken the law, and say, come on in, we are a sanctuary state. We will get everyone else to pay for your stuff because you broke the law. So you deserve to have more. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's me. But I can't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't believe these are benefits to anyone. These are the reasons why we had the Buffalo Billion scandal. This is why we've had Sheldon Silver arrested, why we had Dean Skelos arrested, why Joe Perkirko has been arrested. This is why we have had money wasted on things like the drone testing site. This is why we have legislation like the SAFE Act that has been refused, absolutely rejected by police, by law enforcement, DAs, everyone in the state, and why we have promises from DAs, district attorneys, that have said, like as an example, Scott McNamara and Steve Cornwell have already come out and said that they are not going to follow these laws, that they are going to reject them. This is why we're seeing so many people leave, because they don't agree with what New York State is doing, because New York State isn't making things better. You're not safer, you're not richer, you're not getting more comfort. You have the illusion of someone being able to say to you, you're a better person. That's all you get, is some politician gets to go on TV and say, well, you're a good guy. And everyone else is evil. Everyone else is evil if they don't do what the Democrats in New York State are saying to do. And I should actually be more clear. The progressive socialist Democrats of the Democratic Party, because I don't believe that the regular rank and file people in New York State believe this. They voted for it, yes, but I don't think they actually believe this. I don't think people really want to have less freedom. I don't think they want to have more taxes for less gain. I don't think they believe that the government should have more power and abuse it. That's what I believe. Not everyone agrees with me. Maybe you don't agree with me, and that's okay. Please let me know your thoughts. Go to our sites. Leave a comment. Tomorrow, which will be December 8th, at 12 o'clock, noon, Eastern Standard Time, we'll be going on Facebook, and we'll be doing our Facebook simulcast, and we'll be speaking about this and other issues with everyone in the public to directly hear back from you about your thoughts. You are welcome to join us. Please do. And if you can, please donate. It helps to keep the lights on. It helps to keep the program going. It helps us to do all of the work we do. And if we don't hear from you before Christmas, I want to wish everyone a very, very Merry Christmas. But I do expect that we'll be back before then. And we'll be going forward all the way until the new year comes up. And then we'll be having some interviews with County Executive Jason Garnar. We'll be following up with State Senator Fred Akshar on the bills that I'll be passing in January. We're going to be covering a lot of stuff. So if you can donate $1, donate $5, donate $500, whatever it is, it all helps. We thank you. I want to wish you the best. And if I don't get to hear from you beforehand, please have a great, great Christmas, a Merry Christmas, and a great New Year. But we'll be back tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you there.